This is where I was born and raised for, I guess, as much as I was raised. And it's changed quite a bit. It used to be a chain link fence here all around the yard, and the sidewalks were brick. We used to play ball out here in the barnyard. Dad, of course, the chain link fence was here, so we usually didn't have to run that way. So they moved here in 1925. I was born in 27. In 1936, it was hot, and we slept out on the front porch because it was hot. It didn't have air conditioning, didn't have electricity. I remember 1936 going in down towards the basement, sitting on the basement steps because it was cooler in the basement. So I went down there and would sit on the steps and try to cool off. A lot of people from Sanford would go by here and go down to Park Kerbel's gravel pit to swim, to cool off. 1939, I think we got electricity. I've got it in my diary there, big letters. We got electricity today. REA came through and put in Rural Electrification Association and put electricity up and down the road. It was 1939, I think, that we got electricity. All right, the one on this corner was my bed. Well, it was eventually my bedroom on this corner here. The two windows up to the south and the one to the west are in that bedroom. The one to the east on the front there over the porch is the top of the stairway where you have the winding stairway come up, and that's the top. When I was smaller, I slept in the northeast corner, way over there. But they got bigger, and I don't know, I probably told you this story before, that when 1941, George Bridges was shingling his house, and Mom was pregnant with Jerry, and George Bridges fell off of the front porch down into the rose bush. I don't know why he got hurt very bad or not, but he fell off of there. Got straight down to the barn, sitting on the other side of the sign there. It had openings to this side. We had milk cows on the south side here. Horses were on the north side. A feedway where you went in the middle and fed them. Corn crib was over there. There used to be a tree right over there about where that little one is there, an ash tree. And there was, I think there was one about where that big one is down there now. And of course that grove down there it was full of pine trees at that time. And I think, well, there's three of them left there yet. But, one's not in very good shape, yeah. There's three of those. And I think my mother put the others out in 82, I think. Okay, when I was younger, this was the only machine shed we had, and the car went into the left-hand side here, or the east side, and there was a binder behind it, and that's the only place he had to store machinery. It was in that shed there. The corn picker was in there, a mounted corn picker. You know, we had cows in that west side at one time, because I remember my mother milking cows in there. Besides the barn over here, we had more cows than what the barn would hold, I think, 6 cows, and the horses were on this side of the barn. And then there was a fence out there, and the hogs were on the other side of the shed, on the west back side. There was a hog shed out there. This is a 1936A, and that was my dad's first tractor. And I remember when Frank Hilbert, my mother and I were standing in the dining room, and he got it from Frank Hilbert here in Stanford, and he was unloading it out here, and it cost him $900. And my mother thought that was terrible to pay, $900 for a tractor. He had been farming with horses before. I ran this when I was 36. I think I ran it when it was fairly new, and I remember my dad would wait till we get out of grade school over here, and about the 4th, 5th of May we get out, and that's when he started planting corn. Well, I ran the tractor and he ran the corn plant, and it's got a shutter in front that shuts off the radiator to flow through, and I know I was running that the first time, and it got hot. I went over, Dad, that tractor's running hot. He came over, you pull a lever there, and it opens up a shutter and lets the air go through the radiator. So it didn't hurt anything, but I can remember that. He came over and did that. So, no, there's a lot of memories from that tractor there. Where that dead tree is, on this side of it was a pump. There used to be a tank here for water cattle. This was a lot of the cattle went in, and the other side was pasture, went down, clear down to the fence row down there. And cattle covered drink. But I had to pump water by hand there, and got kind of cold in the wintertime getting a hold of that. But then Dad put a gas engine on there and pumped with a gas engine, and that was a help. But there used to be a bunch of those trees here. Of course, the machine sheds were not here at that time. My mother's uncle, Elmer Smith from Bloomington, came out and he built this chicken house here.
Grandma and Brad and I would stay over here, and Grandma would take us out to gather the eggs. And then that hitching post right there, every time Grandma would take us near that on her way to the house, and she set us up on that hitching post, and we had to flop our wings and say, cock-a-doodle-doo, I'm a rooster too.
Oh my.
I don't know when the Easter egg scavenger hunt started for the grandkids, but Grandma wrote for the Presbyterian Visitor, had her typewriter, and she would write all these clues, type them out, and then she would put them different places, and it'd be clues for where the next one was. Like, well, this is where we went to gather the eggs, so we'd have to go in the chicken house and find that clue, and then the next one, well, this is where Grandpa worked on his tractor down in the hog barn. So we'd have to run down to the hog barn, and then the last clue, that was our Easter baskets were in the last. But she would stand at the window just laughing. Doug, Dan, Bob, and Brad and I. Tom wasn't here yet. So there's 5 of us that would run around this barnyard and find all those clues.
There's a well right, probably just about the end of those bushes there. And it was a well was there. It's not there anymore. They filled it. And then when we got electricity, my dad electrified it so we had water in the house, pumped water in the house. Also from this well, so we had hard water and soft water in the house. And this came out, and Grandma had her garden right here. Okay, do you remember what year my great-grandfather bought this place? 1882. But anyway, well, my great-grandfather came here and he raised 2 boys and 4 girls in this old house that's set right back of me here. It was just a 4-room. There was one about 12 by 12, and the 2 little ones about 6 by 6. And that's what they lived in, with 2 boys and 4 girls. I heard that the boys had to sleep outside. There was a cob house right there, and there was about that much space. They had to sleep in between there, and couldn't sleep in the house where the girls were. So I come over here one day, and Brad and David were tearing it down. my mother had them tearing it down. I kind of hated to see that go. It had a lot of history behind it anyway, because that's where he lived, and then my great-grandfather built this house here then. This used to be a porch here, and a door came out here, and this was a pantry, and had a window here. And my mother came out here one time with a little kid's broom, and the cat was after her chickens, and she threw that broom at the cat, and it went through the window into the pantry there. She did her washing in there until, well, she did out here in the old house to start with, and then moved to the washing machine, and we had to carry the water out, in and out. Had a brooder house out here where she's raised her little chickens. And Dad got on the ham radio, and he had a tower out there. I think about right in here is where his ham radio tower was, if you remember. Right, and the brooder house set out here. We'd get little chickens. She would go to the hatchery and get little chickens. We'd put out, And when you got them out of the box, you took their heads and put their bills in water so they knew how to get a drink. Brad and Ronnie took them out. There used to be 2 rows of grapes come down through here. And my mother used to pick grapes and make grape juice. When I was little, grade school, up there where that window is was my bedroom until I moved to that corner room that I showed you a while ago. Used to be several pine trees here. There's one right straight west of me there, and that's where my swing was. And I had old Bill, it had wheels on. I would ride around to each pine tree. One was Uncle Orville's, one was Uncle Hirsch. I'd go to the pine tree and I'd start talking to him. Yeah, that is original. There used to be pictures on the other side of it, which aren't there anymore. That's the original door. It used to be black. And I slept on the floor here a lot of times in the summertime when it was hot, you know. My mother slept down here then when she was by herself. Used to be a wall here with a door here. And Brad and Rhonda took that out when they moved here. Of course, fireplace wasn't here. It's just like it was before. When I was real little, my dad was laying there on the floor asleep. I think it was on a Sunday. And I was just big enough to look out the windows there. And I looked down and there was a tree down there, and Dad had his car parked underneath there. And I said, there goes the tree on top of the car. And sure enough, the wind had blown the tree over on top of the car. He jumped up and looked down. This was a solid wall here. And when it was wintertime, we slept in here when it was cold. There was a day bed there, and we slept there, and my mother had a bed here, and we would sleep there. And of course, it used to be just a single door. You had to come through to come in here. Used to have a cream separator where you brought the milk in. It was at the end of there, and we had to turn the crank on that. And then after we got electricity, well, maybe before, it went downstairs in the basement. We turned or separate the milk down the basement. We got electricity, and then we got an electric separator on that. Used to be the pantry there. I said that she threw the stick roof through it.